Oh my gosh. I was not expecting that. Holy cow. What up, guys? Got a totally different video than normal today. I'm going to be reviewing my car, which is a Tesla Model Y long range, and I got it last year. I already put 38,000 miles on it now, and this is my review on what I like about it, what I don't like about it. So I wanted to talk about some of the main features of an electric car that people want to know. And I think number one is interior and the software. So the cargo room and stuff like that in there, the autopilot and safety, the range and road tripping, maintenance, and finally the cost of charging versus gas and the price of the vehicle in there too. Really, what it comes down to is, what do you value in a car? When I first got the car, I didn't really like the minimal design, and it's still not my favorite, but I've gotten used to it. I've learned how to use it, and it keeps things simplified when I'm driving, and I think that's a good feature. The infotainment system is pretty incredible in the car. You've got so many apps and Easter eggs in the car, it's not even funny. I mean, my favorite one personally is the emissions testing mode. Bruh. I always use YouTube, Netflix, Hulu, games, and other things like the light show, Santa mode, the Mars map, and a bunch of other stuff. The navigation system in the car is pretty good. I really haven't had that many issues with it. Really nice on the charging network, and it'll just map out all the chargers that you need to hit on your way to your destination. And when I drove from California to Oklahoma, it just mapped out everywhere I needed to go and would actually dynamically adapt to how I was driving and would reroute to chargers that were closer if I was using more energy than predicted. So the seats just fall down pretty much flat. It's still tilted up a little bit right here, but not really an issue. Got plenty of storage in the front trunk here. Now, voice commands can be kind of iffy. Here's a couple of examples. Set navigation volume to 20%. I almost forgot about one of my favorite features, and that's camp mode. I use this mode for every single day for 5 months straight because I lived out in my car when I was working for NatureServe up in Northern California doing plant surveys. The camp mode just keeps the climate on at night while you're sleeping in the car, and will turn off automatically once the battery reaches 20%. But one thing you gotta make sure is to lock the car on the actual screen itself instead of from your phone. That's something I found out the hard way. Just kidding. Autopilot was definitely my favorite feature on my 1,500 mile road trip from Southern California to Oklahoma. And if you missed that video, I'll put the link up above me. I put so much confidence in the ability of Autopilot that 80 to 85% of my daily driving, not just on highways, but on regular streets, is with Autopilot enabled. And about 90% to 95% of my driving on highway is with Autopilot enabled. It just makes things much easier as a driver to have another set of eyes watching the road as you are watching the road too. And I consider it basically double safe, because if I miss something on the road, the eyes watching all around me will catch it in time before I do. And a lot of times it has definitely caught something as soon as I looked away and actually braked in time for something I would have probably not had enough time to brake for. It comes with Traffic Aware Cruise Control, or TAC for short, Autopilot, and those two features come free with the car.
Traffic Aware Cruise Control, or TAC for short, adjusts speed based upon the vehicle ahead of you.
Now, Traffic Aware Cruise Control is an adaptive cruise control, which will just keep an eye on the car in front of it and slow down when the car in front of it slows down, maintaining your set distance between the car, and will speed up to your max speed that you have set.
Auto steer builds upon traffic-aware cruise control by adding steering assistance. As its name suggests, auto steer automatically moves the steering wheel to keep you centered in your lane. Rather than providing constant steering inputs, you can just lightly hold the wheel and scan your surroundings so you're ready in case you need to take over.
And Autopilot is same thing as TAC, but also incorporates lane centering when it detects 2 lane lines on the road. And that's it. That's really all that Autopilot is. And a lot of people think Autopilot will make turns for you or drive through intersections and navigate streets. That's more of the lines of full self-driving beta. Autopilot is a lot more simple than that. It just keeps you centered in the lane and will adjust for the car's speed in front of you. Now, Autopilot is pretty reliable, and about 90% of the time, it does great. It does just fine. And the other 5 or 10%, it kind of fails when either the lane lines are very worn out or faded away and it can't see them anymore. The visibility is too poor and it has to slow down because it can't see the lanes in front of it or the cars in front of it, like when the sun is blocking it. Or sometimes it will be approaching an intersection with cars already parked and will brake at the last second and will be pretty jarring, as if it doesn't even detect the car until the last second and starts editing Jerry right here. And I totally forgot to mention about the automatic emergency braking event that happened to me, and it was really scary one time driving through New Mexico. I'll show you the clip right here. Now, I haven't gotten into an accident in my car yet, but from watching the Wham Bam Tesla Cam channel and just seeing other YouTubers talking about it, the car seems like an incredibly safe vehicle. They designed it with crumple zones in mind and maximum cabin protection. So this car definitely has an amazing safety score and got 5-star safety rating from the NHTSA.
We put our lower load path just outside that crush rail, and we actually angle it so that if you hit something here, we start to absorb the energy, and then we push the car away from whatever object you hit to make sure that you're not getting crushed into that object.
There's plenty of other driver assistance safety features, which I think also falls into my safety category, including autopilot, blind spot monitoring, lane deviation monitoring, and a few other things. Okay, range in road tripping. Everybody talks about EV cars and wants to know how much range can they get. Really, in reality, range is only as good as the supercharging network. In my road tripping experience, I've driven up and down California many times to Idaho from Northern California, halfway across the United States twice now, there and back. My road tripping experience has been rock solid using the supercharging network because it plans it out for you automatically, and it will automatically tell you which chargers you need to hit, how long you're spending there, how many minutes it's going to take to charge, and will precondition the battery if it's a cold temperature outside, and will maximize the charging speed there, and will actually not charge from 0% to 100% at the charging stations, but will maybe charge about 30% or 40% at each station, and will do that multiple times a trip. So this saves time because the time it takes to charge is not the same all the way through up to 100. It starts getting slower as you get closer to 100, slower when the battery is colder. It relies on using the warm energy from you driving to help preheat the battery for it to charge again, instead of wasting time from you getting maybe from 90% to 100% might take an extra 40 minutes, whereas going from 20% up to 30% only takes about 5 minutes or so. Now, I've only had one issue with the supercharger network not being able to be in a location where I absolutely needed it. And this was in Ketchum, Idaho, when I was road tripping through the Sawtooth Mountains. I charged down near Twin Falls, I think. When I drove through the mountains, I was using a lot more energy than I expected, and there wasn't a charger or supercharger to get me through the mountains all the way. So I had to actually sleep on a charger while my car was charging and sleep in the car overnight so I had enough energy to get through the mountains the next day. Overall, in cold weather, I only noticed very minimal amounts of range loss. And here's an example. Going to work right now. Just drove about 15 miles and it's negative 6 degrees outside. It was colder, -8, and I only used about 5.5–6% battery, which is much less than normal. I had to use a defroster once to get rain off my windshield because it's come down again right there. And it froze to my windshield. But I'll show you how much energy I just used in 1 second. There it says 6.7% consumed, 0.1% more than protection. Right now it's 0. Yesterday I used closer to about 8% battery coming to work, and it was a little bit warmer out, maybe -3, but yeah, I think it does pretty good in cold weather. I haven't had any problems. Preconditioned the battery. It was not a problem for me. So I want to make sure I get this clear because range is not as important as people think. If you have 200 miles of range and the nearest supercharger is 300 miles away, you're just not going to make it. What really matters is efficiency and the network of superchargers, which I think Tesla has totally done a great job at. With the exception of that one case, I think that you'll have no problem road tripping across anywhere in the US. Now, one kind of gripe that I have with Tesla and EVs in general is that EPA range estimate that they show on their website is not accurate to real world conditions. I would take about 80% of that number and that will be your real world range. You really never charge below 10% and you don't really go up to 100% very often. You're in that 90% to 20% zone, so you've only got about 70% of usable battery at a time. That's one difference I think between a gasoline car and an electric car, is that you are kind of staying away from either side of the spectrum. When you're at 100%, it just degrades your battery faster, and I just try to avoid being up above 90% for a long period of time. Okay, so now let's talk about maintenance. So in the first 12 months of owning this car, this is how much I spent on maintenance. I got my tires rotated on April 16th and that cost me $50. At the same time, I was going in to correct an alignment issue, which cost $136. Looking back at it, I didn't really need to align my car. I didn't even know that Discount Tire rotates tires for free. This could have been eliminated completely because the alignment on my tire was so slight that it actually wasn't an alignment issue, and I just ended up paying $136 for them to align it the same amount in the other direction. I also had a loose screw in the back of my rear fascia panel from installing hitch receiver. They came out and repaired that for free. They just tightened down the screw that came loose. This car is perfect for anybody who doesn't want to worry about maintaining their car. There are so few things to service, you really only have to worry about maintaining your windshield washer fluid and rotating your tires a couple of times a year. In fact, Discount Tire offers free tire rotations, whereas Tesla charges about $60. On March 21st, 2023, I got my first flat tire recently. It ended up being surprisingly expensive. Here's why. My rear driver's side tire developed a slow leak on my way to work, and I called up Tesla roadside assistance to see if they could fix it. They wanted to charge me over $130 to repair it. To get new tires, they were quoting me at about $430 each. Then I called Discount Tire and asked how much it would cost to fix my flat tire, which there was a piece of concrete in the repairable zone, and they said they would fix it for free. So I headed over to Discount Tire, and when they inspected it, they said it was unrepairable, even though it was in that repairable zone. My tread on the inside of my tire had worn down to be almost bald, but the rest of my tread was about a 3/32 of an inch, and they said that they would not service it. So I had to take the tire off myself. My girlfriend Martha and I patched the tire and popped it back on the car, and it ended up being just fine. My tires were worn down pretty bad, so I just ordered a whole new set of 4 tires. The tires themselves were so about 3 months after I got new tires, I get another nail in the new tires, so I had to take that in and get that replaced for free because it was under the certificate, and then I bought another certificate for the tire for only 50 bucks. Alright, so now let's talk about the most important part. Cost of charging versus gas. So, I'm going to switch over to my computer right here. How much I've charged in the past year. So from January 2022 to December 2022. We've got all the energy that I've used. I did a lot of road tripping in March here. And then here I spent $2,000 throughout the entire year. And the equivalent to that using $4.03 per gallon, 23 miles per gallon. And that's kind of the national average of gas at the time, around 2022. Pretty high gas prices around that time, but it ended up saving me a lot of money. So the equivalent of that would be $7,000 in gasoline. All right, so almost $5,000 of gas savings, $4,831 I saved in just by using electricity.